What does Islam think about extraterrestrials? Does that religion see such entities as friends or foes? And what could be Islam's response to any first contact? Time to look to the skies here on Things Visible and Invisible. Matias, the last time we spoke, you gave a very interesting exposition on Islamic theology around the idea of other beings and other worlds and how they interact with us human beings. Islam, like Christianity, has in the last 50, 60, 70 years had to deal with the phenomena of UFO speculations about UAPs, about extraterrestrials in general. How has the Islamic world dealt with that?
UAPs, UFOs have been a global phenomenon. UFOs, unidentified flying objects, perhaps first emerged in the years after the Second World War, in the 1940s, early 1950s, and some of the first sightings were in the United States, but just like the Second World War and just like the Cold War were global phenomena, so was the phenomena of UFO sightings. During World War II itself, people were already looking at the skies. They were looking at various technological objects in the sky. Of course, World War II was a war that saw a huge advancement in terms of aerospace technology, that saw the development and use of jet planes, for instance, of ballistic missiles, the V2 rocket, and so on. So people after World War II were indeed sort of paranoid about things that might come from the air. The nuclear bombs that were developed during World War II, of course, they also fell from the sky, from planes. So around the world, there were concerns about UFOs, also like national security concerns. So governments, but also ordinary people around the world were watching the sky, watching for planes, watching for missiles. After the launch of Sputnik, the first Soviet and indeed human satellite, they were also watching for satellites. Increasingly, they were not only watching the skies, but they were also watching flying saucers on movie screens and seeing UFOs everywhere. To the point where very, very quickly the UFO became a global icon. So Muslims, just like people of all faiths and people everywhere, would be able to recognize a UFO when they see one. I've got some examples here of Arabic pulp fiction literature. It's not very clear here, perhaps, but it's clear enough that sort of you can recognize a UFO when you see one. Or here as well, this is an Arabic book that says Sir al-Atbaq al-Ta'ira, the secret of the flying saucers. So UFOs very, very quickly went from sort of partly being a national security concern to being a huge phenomenon in popular culture, part of novels, part of short stories, part of films, including films made in the Middle East and the Muslim world.
And is this something which can be easily incorporated into the Islamic mindset, that it's part of that idea that we talked about on the last occasion of different worlds. Is there an understanding that these different worlds are interacting somehow with our own world?
Yeah. So a lot of Muslims by the 1950s would have had experiences of colonization, would have had experiences of invasions, would have had experiences of visitors from another world, albeit a world within our own world, from the Western world. Egypt, for instance, was invaded by Napoleon already, Napoleon Bonaparte, in 1798, coming with the modern ships and weapons technologies. Egypt was again occupied by the British in the late 19th century, with the advanced military technology that Britain, the powerhouse of the Industrial Revolution, would have had. And during World War II as well, World War I and World War II, different Middle Eastern countries, Iraq, Iran, were occupied by invaders, by technologically advanced forces that came with their own air forces. So, for instance, the British used aircraft in subduing Iraq. Definitely Muslims would have been very accustomed to the idea that it is possible to be invaded by a technologically superior others. And Muslims would have also been used to the ideas of outside forces conspiring against them. But we now, for instance, know about secret agreements by the French and the British to divide up the Middle East, divide up the Arab world during World War I, the famous Sykes-Picot Agreement. If Muslims, if people from the Middle East also believed in conspiracy theories and the idea that there are outside forces conspiring against them, then this was also based on a fertile ground that was created through actual experiences of colonization, of invasion, and actual conspiracies by the British, by the French, and other imperial powers.
That's absolutely fascinating, Matias, putting it in its historical context. However, today, most of the Arab world is self-governing. The UFO phenomena has grown apace in the last quarter of a century or so. In the West, to some extent, some people of faith or no faith see it as a kind of either a critique of their faith or a moment of crisis about their Christian faith. Is there any sort of crisis in the Islamic world about the possibility that there are extraterrestrials that challenge the concept of a God or the order which people understand the celestial hierarchy?
But there is less of a challenge to Islamic fundamentals. So in Islam, God is understood to be all-powerful, that he can create whatever he wants to create, that even the strangest, even the weirdest beings could be evidence indeed that God exists, because only God could have created something as strange or as weird or as different from what we are used to. In Christianity, there's also the idea that God himself became incarnate, became flesh on our planet, that the Father at some point became the Son, that God in the form of Jesus Christ, died on the cross for the sins of humanity. No such ideas exist in mainstream Islam. But mainstream Islam would hold the idea that God did not become a son or did not transform into a son, but that God himself is neither the father of somebody in particular, nor the son of somebody in particular. But there's also not the idea that that God would have died somewhere on a cross or otherwise. There's the idea that God would send down heavenly messages, including the Quran, which is commonly understood to be the last, the final message, that certain special humans, prophets, would be recipients of these messages, but these prophets are sort of maybe virtuous, maybe special, but they are human, of the human nature, just like anybody else. So Muslims would find it indeed easily possible that God could have also created extraterrestrials, that God could have created beings of different realms, right? Beings that are adapted to different spheres, just like God created marine life for water, just like God created land animals for the land, just like God created birds to make use of the air. So it is perfectly possible in sort of mainstream Islamic thinking that, yes, God could have also created extraterrestrials for other planets. There is a certain uneasiness about the ideas of there is a certain uneasiness about the idea that extraterrestrial might be more chosen by God than we are. So Islam shares with Christianity the idea that humans are God's favorite creation. So if we come across aliens who seem to be more favored, then that could indeed challenge the thinking of, okay, what is our place in the universe right now? However, there's no clear definition of what a favored form of creation would be. Even in Islamic theology as it stands, the humans, yes, we might be the favored creation, but we're not understood to be the most powerful either, right? So we, in many ways, are not as perfect as the angels, as another form of creation. We do not have all the powers that the Jinn have, which are also God's creation. So if we come across aliens that are more perfect in their technology, in the way they organize society, more perfect in their philosophy and ethics, that does not mean that they are God's favored creatures. Same thing with similar to the Jinn. If we do find aliens who seem to be more powerful than we are, more advanced, it does not necessarily make it completely apparent and obvious that these powerful aliens would indeed be more favored than us. However, if we do come across aliens that maybe do appear sort of more special than humans are, that could be a challenge to Muslims' faith.
Interesting. I mean, you've mentioned the Jinn a number of times, and you've alluded to the fact that there are connections with light. You know, they're seen as light bearers in essence. Is that in the Islamic world? Is that a way in which they could, if you like, interpret some of these UFO UAP sightings, these lights, these kind of strange phenomena? Would that be an easy way for people to interpret what is happening around them?
Absolutely. So, for instance, if you have less educated people, people in rural areas, right? Let's say rural Yemen, rural Pakistan, rural Afghanistan, and they would be encountering, let's say, very advanced American drones, surveillance drones, but also like killer drones, right? The kind of drones that would target, let's say, terrorists, extremists, leaders that, let's say, the United States government wants to assassinate. If sort of local people sort of encounter these drones in the sky, right, sort of strange lights, objects making strange noises, objects that sort of appear out of a sudden, disappear again into the void. These drones that can bring death and destruction, right, that can destroy houses, kill people. Yes, it is very, very possible that sort of local people might not recognize these drones to be as technological devices, but could see them as maybe manifestations of the Jinn, of course. And of course, we now live in a world where drones become more and more ubiquitous, where it's not just the United States that has advanced drones, but we have drones used and developed by many, many different nations, often used in secret missions or semi-secret missions. So just like, for instance, in the United States, there are concerns about Chinese drones or Chinese weather balloons or spy balloons or spy satellites. In the same way, people in the Middle East and the Muslim world, they could also be very concerned about spy satellites, drones, etc., more and more of which you would see in the sky. And they would probably try to make sense of what they see with what they know, including Islamic cosmology and Islamic thought.
Now, you alluded to the UFO phenomena beginning after the Second World War, and there are very sort of celebrated cases, for example, Roswell and all of that. Is there any similar incidents recorded in the Islamic world, or any sightings that are particularly famous, or any crashes or that sort of thing in the world, in the Arabic Islamic world?
Yes, there are various ones. So, for instance, there were sightings from Iran in the 1970s, so just before the Islamic Revolution that brought the current regime to power. This was a time when the Iranian government under the Shah, the Iranian king at the time, was collaborating very, very actively with the United States. When the American embassy in Tehran, which was subsequently occupied by protesters, when that US embassy actually served as the headquarters of the CIA for all of Asia. So this was a very tumultuous time where you had a lot of secret actions by the CIA, by the Iranian secret police. So there's a famous incident of the Iranian Imperial Air Force sighting lights in the sky, their instruments failing, and pilots observing essentially UFOs. This was a time, like I said, when the Iranians were still collaborating actively with the American government. So when the Iranians were trying to investigate that, they were asking the Americans for their help. And so Americans created reports that were subsequently leaked and released. Hence, we know about sort of the extensive documentation, the extensive research that that existed about sort of UFOs at the time in 1970s Iran. I'm not sure whether that particular case of this 1970s UFO sighting by the Iranian Air Force was ever fully explained. But there are other instances, for instance, instances of sudden strange lights appearing over Morocco, which were subsequently explained to be essentially Soviet space junk. So where you had a Soviet booster rocket that burned off in the atmosphere and then were sort of widely seen by people across Morocco. We know about this incident because, again, the Moroccan government, they were and still are important partners of the American government. So the Moroccan government that was very concerned about seeing these lights contacted the American government, which confirmed to them that these lights were not due to any American satellite activity. But it was only later revealed that most probably these were due to Soviets rockets burning in the atmosphere. Obviously, during the second half of the 20th century and during the 21st century in which we now live, we have more and more activity in low Earth orbit. We have more and more rockets, more and more satellites, but there are more and more objects that can burn upon re-entry into the atmosphere. This could explain, for instance, in part why there is many more UFO sightings, just because there is much more activity in the atmosphere. And of course, just like in the late 1940s, when we were at the beginning of the Cold War, many people feel that, again, now in the 2020s, we are at a time of another Cold War-like standoff between the United States and Russia, between the United States and China, where, again, people are worried and paranoid about strange things that they see in the sky that they cannot explain.
Absolutely fascinating. Unfortunately, we have to come back down to earth now, Matias. We've run out of time here. Tell people where they can find out more about you and where they can pick up copies of your books.
Thank you so much. So you can find more about me if you just put my full name, Jörg Matthias Determann, into a search engine. But you can find me on social media platforms such as LinkedIn, X, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. Feel free to connect. My books you would be able to find widely in brick and mortar bookstores, as well as in online retailers, Amazon and the like.
Matias, thank you so much for coming on Things Visible and Invisible.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Things Visible and Invisible. We're dedicated to uncovering phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, from ancient enigmas and paranormal encounters to scientific anomalies and forgotten histories. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysterious and unexplained, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell to stay updated on future explorations. Have a personal experience or story that aligns with our investigations? We'd love to hear from you. Visit our website at tvi.show and reach out through our contact form. While we can't feature every submission, we review them all, and your story might be featured in an upcoming episode. To support our continued investigations, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member. Your contributions make these explorations possible and give you access to exclusive content, early releases, and monthly behind-the-scenes discussions with our team. Don't forget to check out our merch store. We've got everything from TVI-branded t-shirts and hoodies to stickers and coffee mugs, perfect for showing your support while keeping the mysteries close. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the things visible and invisible.